Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Gulf Regional Virtual Experience. This has been a great event so far. Thank you to all of our exhibitors for participating in our trade show and to all of you for taking time out today to be with us today. I am Nick Zaber, Gulf Regional Director. I am honored to serve as your Regional Director. It is a privilege to work on your behalf and to be an advocate for initiatives and issues AAHOA is constantly working on. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Chase and RLH Corporation. Their support means so much for our association, and we are grateful for their partnership. Here's a message from Chase. At Chase, we are committed to the well-being and safety of our customers, our employees, and our community. We're here for you when you need us, whether it's providing best practices, professional consultation, or business tools and resources. Thank you, Chase. Here's a message from RLH Corporation.
All right, we have breaking news now. World Health Organization has just declared coronavirus a pandemic at this point. Here's a message from RLH Corporation. RLH Corporation is an innovative hospitality company focused on franchising of 8 brands from upscale boutique to economy hotels. They emphasize maximizing return on invested capital for their nearly 1,000 hotel owners across North America through relevant brands, industry-leading technology, and forward-thinking brand services. RLH thanks AAHOA for being a major industry partner in providing our hotel owners and operators with an association where hotelier voices matter and imperative resources are readily available. Your involvement is key to AAHOA's success. Our officers, our board, and our ambassadors are all volunteers. I would like to recognize our Gulf Regional ambassadors. They work tirelessly to support AAHOA in our region. Babu Patel, Devendra Patel, Dhruvan Patel, Hiren Zaveri, Jayesh Patel, Jiten Zaveri, Mitul Patel, Nilesh Patel, Pankit Kumar Patel, Pinko Patel, Vilas Patel, and Vivek Jariwala. I would also like to recognize Gulf Region 2019 Premier Ambassador Pankit Kumar Patel. He went above and beyond in his service to AAHOA and to our nation's hoteliers, and we are grateful for his service. Thank you to all of our ambassadors and for all of you for what you do for our region. Now let us take a moment to review our regional performance. As you can see, the Gulf region has 651 paid members, 414 lifetime members,
I urge you to encourage your networks to join or renew their AAHOA membership. Hoteliers are struggling right now, and we need to rely on each other more than ever. If you have a friend or family member who is not an AAHOA member, help them out. Encourage them to become a member today and to take advantage of all the resources that AAHOA offers. As a reminder, AAHOA membership is free for those of you who own RLH Corporation or G6 franchise. Also, if you or your fellow hotelier is a Wyndham franchisee who has never been an AAHOA member, you too are eligible for a free membership. This year, our region has raised $5,037 for AAHOA PAC. If you have not donated to our PAC, you can do it right now securely through AAHOA.com or here at our regional by visiting the information desk. Your support is greatly appreciated. The names of those who have donated to the AAHOA PAC, we are grateful for your support. AAHOA supports candidates who support small business and more specifically, hoteliers. Here are the candidates that AAHOA PAC is supporting in our region. We work best when we work together. I am proud of what we have accomplished, especially in the face of this pandemic. I'm grateful for your support and your participation, especially all of you who updated your property data through myahoa.com. When you update your property information, it helps us help you, such as when we're talking with brands, vendors, or elected officials. It helps us paint a more complete picture of your influence as great as job creators and leaders in our business community. We also need your emails and cell phone numbers, and be sure to opt in to receive the latest news updates and special deals. Please take a few minutes today. Update your property information through myahoa.com and help us be better advocates for you and to best communicate with you. We have several important events coming up, including additional regionals. Log into AAHOA.com every day to find new events to attend, even virtually. We add new ones every day. I am looking forward to a great year. I am pleased to introduce our next guest who will join me as part of a panel to discuss the 2020 State of the Lodging Industry and top issues in our region. Please join me in welcoming our panelists, Jill Kidder, President CEO, Louisiana Travel Association, Limo Patel, President Q Hotel Management, and our moderator, Tammy Gillis, CEO and founder, Gillis Sales. Thank you all for sharing your valuable perspectives on our industry. Now I encourage everyone to please head over to the auditorium to hear from your AAHOA officers. That's later on. Sorry.
Thank you, Nick, and welcome everybody. It's my pleasure to moderate this really important conversation as we look ahead at wrapping up what's been a really difficult year in the industry and looking at how we can start to rebuild in 2021. What I'd love to do is have a really open, fluid conversation with our industry experts here. We've prepared some great questions on different topics, from finance to revenue generation to the labor issues. And hopefully you'll be able to take away some best practices as you start to build your plans for 2021. I'm going to turn it over to our panelists to just take a moment to introduce themselves, the work that they do. And I'll start with Jill, and then we'll go to Vimal, and then to Nick.
Well, thank you, Tammy. I appreciate that so much. And I'm just thrilled to be able to be a part of this conversation today with the Gulf Region AAHOA group and with Nick and Vimal on this panel. I am Jill Kidder, as you said, and the President and CEO of the Louisiana Travel Association. I've been in that role for about 14 years now. Prior to that, I had experience in convention and visitors bureaus and also in the hotel industry. That's actually how I got my start right after college, was working in the hotel industry. I've done everything from sales to general manager, and have worked across the country, both in Connecticut and Tennessee, Mississippi, and here in Louisiana, which is my hometown, my home, and glad to be back in Louisiana and serving our industry here. The Louisiana Travel Association is about an 800-member organization, and we serve hotels and restaurants and attractions and convention and visitors bureaus, transportation companies, airports, all facets of the hospitality and travel industry, much like U.S. Travel does, if some of you are familiar with U.S. Travel. The organization really focuses in what I call 3 buckets, and we assist our members with marketing efforts. We also do a lot of educational work, much as AAHOA does throughout the year. We host the Lieutenant Governor's annual Travel Summit, which is a large event that happens each year here in Louisiana. The Lieutenant Governor is actually our #1 elected leader who oversees the travel industry in Louisiana. And but the major part of our work for the Louisiana Travel Association is advocacy work. And that has changed over the last 5 years. We were mostly an education and marketing arm for our industry. But because of the things that are occurring in protecting funding and assisting with regulations and trying to work on to protect and grow our industry, we really do see that the importance of the advocacy issues at a federal level, at a state level, and at a local level. And so Louisiana Travel Association has gotten more involved over the last 5 years than it ever has in those efforts. So I appreciate being with you and look forward to answering any questions that I'm able to.
Thank you, Jill.
Hi, hi. So again, my name is Vimal Patel with Q Hotel Management in Laplace. I've been with this in Laplace for over 21 years now, and we have 8 hotels, and we own and manage third-party hotels as well. Obviously, the life has changed considerably after COVID, and so new challenges and new adjustment that needs to be made, along with taking precautions and have safety of the staff and the guests as well, and obviously taking care of our own finances. So it's been a totally challenging year, especially with 2 hurricanes in the area, and some of them that just kind of brushed past us. Yeah, so it's I guess the new adventure in essence of taking on these new challenges, but we're hoping to kind of get out of this and be behind us, and hopefully we can move forward with the new normalcy, what I would like to call it. And I'm also the board member of the Louisiana Hotel Motel Association, and a lifetime member with the AAHOA, and hope that we continue to work together and towards the advocacy, and not only the state level, but also in Washington as well, and be happy to participate and do whatever that's needed for our industry.
Thanks, Vimal. And Nick, tell us about your role at Insignia.
Sure. So I'm Nimesh Zaber. Insignia Hotel consists of 8 hotels throughout the state. We also do third-party management, just like Vimal does. Just like Vimal, we're facing challenges in today's COVID world. Also dealing with hurricanes, damage, construction. I also have the privilege of working with Jill Kidder on her board, the Louisiana Travel Association, as well as the Convention and Visitors Bureau here in Southwest Louisiana. So we're facing the same challenges in this industry, and we're all in it together. So
thank you. There's no better segue for me to dive in with the first question. So thank you all for that great opening and introduction. So the first question that I have is a broad one, and it's a 2-part question. What, in your opinion, and Jill, we'll start with you, is permanently altered in our industry as a result of COVID this year? And what, in your opinion, is just temporarily altered? So in other words, what's something that is probably never coming back? And what is something that is just temporarily halted and will come back because of COVID?
Yeah, I think what has been altered is our sense of security and our sense of security for travelers. I do think that we will always be taking precautions from now on. I think some of the precautions and the safety and hygiene measures that are in place now will continue because I do believe that just as our neighbors in our foreign countries have experienced this in several different types of crises, I think that we are going to continue to see this, and we have to be resilient. We have to learn how to be resilient. And I think that these hoteliers in Louisiana are a perfect example of resiliency. And I also think that what may have changed that will come back is the way people are traveling now. I think that most people who are traveling right now are traveling by car. And they are limiting the amount of travel that they're doing. But I do think there is such pent up demand right now for returning to the way we were. And as we all said, that new normalcy, whatever that is. And I do believe that we will see people getting in airplanes again. We're starting to see that already as some of us talked earlier. I really do think that will come back.
Thank you. Vimal and Nick, on the hotel side, is there anything you think is permanently altered?
Yeah,
And what is just temporary?
yeah, sure. So I think again, as Jill mentioned, I think the safety measures. I think whether whether in the public area, whether in the guest room, and I think the new way to kind of do clutter control, to kind of automate a lot of the things where the touching part kind of maybe limited in a lot of the aspects of it. So I think, and again, we also curious to see how the food part is being handled, especially with a breakfast buffet. I think that those are probably going to be drastically changed forever in how we handle that as well. In that regard. So cleanliness, that part where now is limited with the housekeeping. I think that probably may evolve in a way where the housekeeping could be possibly on just on demand for the stayover rooms. It probably won't go back to where we're required to clean every day. So I think some of these changes probably may help mitigate the cost control as well. And that may be a good idea to kind of continue, some of these measures permanently. But in regards to the guest travel, in regards to how we interact with the guests, I think the customer service part is probably not going to go away, because I think no matter how much you automate things, I think there is human interactions that the guests going to need, the staff's going to need. And that needs to continue, and it should continue. And I think the lobby gathering and the customer, especially asking directions, asking for support, asking for whatever the conversation the starter is. I think that probably will get back to some level in that regards. But I think some of this stuff will need to be changed permanently, and should.
Nick, is there anything you feel, let me ask you this question, that has changed for the better from a hotelier perspective? Is there anything, do you think, in the way we're going to have to do things in the future that's been for the better?
I think mobile check-in for guests is here to stay. I mean, it's probably before its time. I mean, you've got Hilton, Marriott, and Best Western. I think some of those companies are getting ready to launch. Well, Hilton and Marriott already has, but Best Western is getting ready to launch mobile entry and mobile check-in. I think that's going to be here to stay. Do I think it's before its time? Probably, yeah. We're probably about 5 years before its time, but I think brands are now getting aggressive and trying to get that rolled out ASAP in this COVID world. I think you're going to see the sanitation stations. That's here to stay, which is probably for the better. I mean, everyone wants a nice, clean place. Breakfast, however, on like I agree with Vimo, that's going to change also. We're starting to see breakfast in box, but we don't know how long that's going to last. But the way we do buffets is going to change drastically. And meeting spaces right now, I'm hoping, the 6 feet apart rule. I'm hoping that we could actually move forward and meet in person. And we're all together, and we're from the South, and everyone just loves hugging each other whenever they see each other. And, we want that to come back. We want our normal lives back, and we hope to see it soon.
Thank you for that. And given those restrictions, we talked about breakfast being altered, maybe it's housekeeping on demand, and that breakfast in a box. And this question is for anyone who wants to jump in. How do you, given these restrictions, how do we exceed guest expectations in this socially distant world where there's these restrictions, right? Around food, around how we service them, around just some of the hours of operation. How are you being able to find that balance between keeping your employees safe, your guests safe, but also meeting those expectations they have when they check in?
Right. So I think for the housekeeping part, I think we have not seen that much challenges in regards to the guest complaints, because I think everyone understands the necessity, the safety measures, especially on the stable rooms, to not to be able to go in the room and service them, and there's a possibility of the contamination, right? For the safety of the staff, for the safety of the guests. And I haven't seen that much issues or challenges with that, very few of them. But I think definitely with the breakfast and I guess everybody has been programmed. They're part of the routine. They're part of this availability of the coffee and the breakfast in the morning, and I think that new norm, where lack of the breakfast and having to probably find alternative solution, whether it's a fast food or whether it's a restaurant next door or pick up or whatnot. I think that's probably where a lot of the challenges will play along when you have a occupancy that may return to 40, 50, 60% at the time, and how do you deal with that? Because to go breakfast and be available of that part, may have to evolve in that, and I'm sure that between brands and the hoteliers, they can find a happy medium to satisfy the guest, but also I think the guest will also be able to adjust the new norm, just like they adjusted with the new 9/11 security, right? I mean, it was a big deal at the time, but I mean, pretty soon, everyone kind of got accustomed to that. And become part of the life, and now nobody thinks a second about that. So I think some of this new norm may become one of those habitual routine once we get past this pandemic and surging and resurgence of this virus, and hopefully that nobody would be continue to question that as we kind of move along with the adjustment and taking the safety measures.
Nick, what are you seeing? Oh, sorry, Jill, go ahead. Would love you to weigh in.
I just wanted to say, as a traveler, what I have appreciated and felt better about as someone who is in this industry and seeing it, I think that communication on the front end, telling me what you're going to do to keep me safe when I do arrive, what to expect when I do arrive. All of that kind of advanced communication to me is so important to making that connection, even though it may not be in person, but it is that communication that you're having with me to say, I care about you. I want to keep you safe.
That's a really great point, actually. Nick, was there anything you wanted to add to that?
Again, I mean, like Vimo said, it's all about programming people. Like this change that's happened everywhere. it's the consumer has to get used to it. And once they're used to it, then they're actually programmed, and they actually tend to start living that lifestyle. So that's an important, not everyone's used to being programmed a certain way, but it's definitely getting there. Like from whenever you go to airports to whenever you go to hotels to whenever you go to restaurants, everything has changed. And I think that's going to be the new norm.
We're easily trained, I guess. It's interesting. My next question segues into, if that's what the new traveler and customer has to get used to, what have you done to prepare and equip your frontline and your back of the house and front of the house teams to get used to providing hospitality and perhaps dealing with just some of these challenging guests in, that might not always be happy when they're checking in with the new norm? How have you equipped your teams? Nick, do you want to kick off?
Yeah, so the consumer, like whenever we were talking about programming, right? They're used to the old way of, they're used to what they're used to, right? Coming into a hotel, checking in, doing the normal things that they do, and now everything's different for them. And every day, in our general managers meetings that they have in the mornings, right? It's all about just continuous to train, educating the employees and the staff that, that we live in a different world. So this is what we have to live by standards, and, this is what the guest expectations are. Even though they're not used to it, we have to be nice and just try to get them used to the new way of our reality right now. That's
how's that working out? Has that been a difficult transition?
Majority of
that mindset.
I mean, it's reflected on our medallia scores, right? I mean, a lot of people like it, but you still have that small percentage that's just never going to be happy. It's just the way of life. I mean, you'll see that being reflected on your medallia scores, and I see my general managers get upset about it, because you're trying to keep the place safe, you're trying to do whatever you can, and then you just get a customer, or you'll get a handful of customers that they're just not used to it, and that they might not ever get used to it,
Fair enough. Vimal, what are you seeing? How have you equipped your team to really, it's probably more of a mindset shift than anything. How are you equipping them to be successful in the new normal?
Right. So it's just kind of drilling down the procedures, having the checklist in front of them, constantly reminding them, forming a new habit. Because again, it's a human tendencies to kind of go back to the way it was, whether it's shaking hands or kind of walking away with things or touching things and then not going behind to kind of wipe it down or whatnot. So it's a habitual process that has to be developed so that it can become part of a sort of your automatic life. And then also communicating, just like Jill said, that I think before the reservation, or during the reservation, that's made communication via email to the guest upon arrival, communicating to the guest via email, probably signs at the front desk or the elevator, reminding about the guest, the procedures, whatever your particular process is at the hotel regarding the service, regarding the breakfast, regarding the cleanliness, just reminding them what we do at the hotel level, what do you expect, and if you do need to deviate, what can be done. So these are some of the things that the guest is communicated ahead of time, then that can be mitigated as well. And then also kind of reminding, because a lot of times even the guests themselves, they forget to wear masks once they checked in and they want to come down to the lobby or they want to go to their car and whatnot. So kindly reminding them about it as well, because again, the front desk may be behind the glass shield, but again, there might be some other guests walking around and they may not like it. And you hear that some once in a while in the medallia, as well as Nick mentioned, whether in the elevator that no one is wearing a mask, or people that just kind of don't care about it. And so you hear, so you just kind of, everybody's concerned. You just want to take certain standard measures to just kind of make sure everybody's well aware of it, and especially the staff. And cleanliness, housekeeping services, stay on top of it. Again, with the limited staffing, now you have everybody doing the housekeeping. The front desk is doing housekeeping, manager is doing the housekeeping. So everybody just kind of making sure that, they play their role and just kind of, keep constant reminder what the new procedures are.
It's not for the faint at heart, and it's amazing training, right? It's amazing training, but I think to Jill's point, communication and making sure that the frontline staff know what to say and how to say it is probably more than half the battle, right? It's how that message is delivered and over communicating, which I think is a really great point. Jill, my next question is actually for you. And it's about, I mean, obviously, the state of Louisiana has been devastated by COVID. It's a major convention destination, culinary and leisure destination. And in 2019, just under $19 billion came in through tourism. And between local and state taxes, it was just under $2 billion. So what kind of conversations are you having with lawmakers and state leaders? And are they feeling the impact? What kind of conversations are you having? Because this has to be a big deal for the state.
It's a huge deal, Tammy. And they're beginning to realize it. I think over the last 5 years, as I was saying in the introduction, the advocacy work of this association and the Hotel Association and the Restaurant Association and all of these folks that we all work together, AAHOA, over the last few years, we've been able to begin to educate our elected leaders. But I think it's during a crisis like this when they truly see the impact that this has on our state. Over and over again, Nick and I were fortunate enough to serve on a Resilient Louisiana Commission task force that the governor put together for the hospitality and tourism industry. And what we saw was that over and over, the researchers shared with us that the two major industries that were being impacted were the travel and tourism industry and the oil and gas industry. Both of those are the top industries in Louisiana. So they began to realize, I think, especially now, that these two industries, even though they always look to the oil and gas industry, I think, as the major employer and the major sustainer of the state revenues, they're beginning to see that this is an important industry and should be treated like an industry.
What are the biggest challenges you're feeling right now? And do you have any examples of how the government's stepped in?
Yeah, the biggest challenges I think right now are getting ready for this rebound. Once we are beginning to come out of this, I think my fear is that everybody else is going to be coming out of it at the same time. Unlike Louisiana, who may have been hit by a hurricane in the past, and we recovered from it, and we had lost revenue and lost people visitors coming to Louisiana, we were able to recover pretty quickly because the rest of the country was okay and people wanted to travel. Now everybody has been impacted with this crisis, and we're all going to be fighting for the same visitor. And so that's going to be a huge challenge for Louisiana, both from the convention side of things and the leisure side of things. I think our corporate business is going to take a little bit longer to come back. I think people have figured out that they can do what we're doing today and do some Zoom meetings. So we're anticipating that it's going to be a competitive challenge. And that's what we're looking at. How do we prepare ourselves to be competitive in a real tight marketplace once this starts to come back? And so what we've done is really push at a federal level and a state level to receive some funding to get prepared. And we were fortunate enough that our state legislature, during a special session in October, did provide about $5 million to our convention and visitors bureaus, here, our destination marketing organizations here in Louisiana. And that is being actually being sent through the Lieutenant Governor's office and will be then granted down to our Convention and Visitors Bureaus, which will help our hoteliers immensely. And so we are really excited about that.
That's great news. Excellent. We're going to move on to talk about financing. And so Nick and Bimmel, this is for you. Have you had to restructure your loans? And what have your lenders been doing to work with you over this difficult time? This is, you could probably take a few hours over a cold beverage to talk about this, but what are some highlights you want to share? How difficult it's been? What have been some silver linings, I guess, as you work with your lenders?
So yeah, I mean, obviously this has been a very pressure point for all of us. I mean, 100% of the hoteliers throughout the country have experienced this and continue to experience this. The challenge has been divided, I guess, between the local lenders, the local banks, and some of the institutions where you have relationship with. Those have been very easy to work with because in the very beginning stages. In March, when everything started shutting down, as we were approaching, the local banks and the relationship managers, they're very happy to oblige. I went through some documentation. Some didn't even bother with that. They just kind of extended, deferment for 3 months, and then most of them came back and gave another 3 months. But now, come October, a lot of these lenders now wanting to come back and at least want interest only. But rightfully so. I mean, they've done more than what we anticipated, and 6 months worth of deferment. So, then the contrary, how do you, if the hotels, kind of were not performing, how do you do this? So that's been a challenge to kind of balance the act with the local banks, and they're far more than understanding, and they're still willing to work out. The biggest challenge has been the CMBS loan, right? So none of the lenders are, for them, CMBS sides are willing to work. They all have demanded the payments, and they all want us to hold us by the loan docs and the signatures and all the covenants in that. So there's been a lot of movement from the advocacy side that we have been trying to get around that. We have spent a lot of time and hours with the AAHOA. As well AAHLA and through our state senators and congressmen trying to advocate Washington to pass some bills. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened, but we continue to fight that battle. A lot of us are unable to meet the payments, and we're just kind of waiting to see, what that the next step would be, whether they're going to, drop that big sword on us, or they're going to work with us. They're going to be able to kind of extend some part of it, do some relief, find some middle ground. But it's end of November we're talking about, and yet we are two hotels with the CMBS financing, and we are still waiting to kind of find some resolution in that part to how to proceed for the upcoming year. And that's a very unknown factor that's still looming over our head.
Very real. Nick, have the relationships that you've developed over the years helped you navigate this major pressure point?
Well, with the local lenders, I mean, they've been great to work with. Community banks, people like that. They're great to work with as far as, COVID. They understand the world that we're living in, right? But whenever you do CMBS, which from what I understand is a complicated piece in trying to do any kind of legislation or anything like that, it's just a complicated loan, which now we're starting to see a lot of foreclosures, like people that have worked, their whole lives, and it's just amazing that nothing can be done on the CMBS front to help these hoteliers that have, it's their bread and butter, and now they're getting foreclosed on. I've seen a lot of foreclosures on that front, and will continue to do so. I mean, it's just going to happen. But that's a really sad thing on people that did get these CMBS loans, and the lenders are, it's costing them to do a forbearance, or it's just a huge money making scheme that people can't get out of. It's just a tough thing that they're working through. I would love to see some kind of legislation, but it's just a complicated piece and we just don't know of a way out of it. So, I feel for every single hotelier that's out there, doing business at this time. I mean, whether it's conventional or CMBS or SBA. SBA's done a great job, giving 6 months of no payments, and they've done a great job in working with the hospitality industry to make sure that people could cash flow. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen in the next couple of years.
Thank you for that perspective. And let's switch gears and talk about something I think we all need a crystal ball, and that's forecasting, budgeting. And I'll also talk about revenue generation. How are you approaching your budgets as you look ahead to 2021? Who wants to take this one?
Well, I think that's basically a shot in the dark, right? I mean, just throwing dots on the wall and see what happens, right? Again, like if you were asking me that question in October, right, as I indicated earlier, right, that then I would have given a different perspective. Now all of a sudden, in coming November, I mean, somebody just flip off the switch and then we're down to back to 15, 17% occupancy in the area. So again, now New Orleans killing the Mardi Gras and other events, that is going to be part of it, problem. Shell for us, plant closing down, that's going to have effect as well. So I mean, it's like, if you ask today, it's like a doomsday scenario, right? The whole world is coming to an end. That's the kind of feel that we get in the essence of how do you project, let alone 2021, how do you project just the first quarter, right? So it's a difficult situation. I think we are probably planning to just kind of go back to what we did, cost cutting and staffing and everything else, what we did back in March, April, May, right? And we were at limited staff, and who knows? I mean, we shut down the floors and do different cost cutting measures to accommodate this downturn, because if we, again, with the surge and everything else, the state issues again, restrictions and closures of the other businesses and so forth, that's going to affect even more. So there's very, very much unknown in there. It's very hard to predict anything, for that matter.
Nick, are you looking at, okay, here's where we're at for 2020 and building modest increases every quarter? How are you approaching the budget process for next year?
It all depends on Operation Warp Speed.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to be flat until March, and I think that curve will start heading upwards. Next fall, I think it'll go even higher. But again, it's all about what happens with the vaccinations, and then also, like, to add on that, it's, again, I agree with Vimal. It's going to be so hard to forecast for budget for next year because we're still trying to seek brand reliefs, right? Like, hey, we've been paying you franchise agreements franchise fees all these years, and this is the time when I need you the most. What can you do to help us out to stay afloat? And it takes not just the lenders, right? It needs to take the lenders, the brands, everybody that has a stake in the game, just to keep things afloat for the industry. And I know Jill right here, like, she's selling a building just to kind of make her changes in her organization.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jill, share with us what you're doing.
Yeah, it's interesting. Our organization has had a building that it's owned outright for about 22 years now. The building was a older building and bigger, and over the last probably 4 years, we have started transitioning to how can we be more mobile? How can we be out in the field more? So we were going to laptops, we were going to all of everything in the cloud. We were doing everything to get ready for that. And COVID just pushed it faster. And so we looked at this big building and said, we've all been working very productively from home. How can we continue to do that and save that money that we would have been putting into that older building to keep it up, and just continue to work the way we're working and invest back into our membership and what our members needed. And so our board was more than willing. They immediately voted to say, yes, let's do this. Let's put this money where it should be, and that's supporting our membership. So we were very pleased that that happened.
So you're a completely remote team? You're going
We
to
are.
remote?
Yeah, we do have a site, because we do have a warehouse distribution program for brochures and other things that we distribute to visitor centers throughout the state. So we do have a small office operation. So when we need to go, we can, and we can meet there. But we are all working remotely. There are 8 of us now who are doing that.
Well, congratulations. That's a great move.
So Tammy, I want to kind of, sorry, but Tammy, I do want to kind of add on to what Nick was saying earlier in regards to a street in that essence. You know, we trying to kind of narrow down on what lenders can do for us, right? But at the same time, you know, the brands, the franchisors are also equal partners in it without any ownership, right? You know, they take a full, nowadays it's 15-18% of the top line. Yet if you ask the different brands, hotel owners, hoteliers to see, you know, how satisfied are you with your brands in helping, and I'm sure that some of the brands just completely left them in cold, and some of the brands shut down their marketing platform completely to zero. And you know, the hotels were getting reservations from third-party sites, and yet the brands had no problem collecting the royalties and marketing fees on those revenues. So I don't think, you know, if another thing that probably needs to change is the FTC and the Fair Franchising Agreement and some of these, I would say, dictatorship type measures that the brand puts upon the hoteliers, franchisees. I think that probably needs to be evolved as well, along with these other measures, because in times like this, there are other industries, other you know, franchisors have come out and done a lot of extra things for their partners, right? And you know, not many like what Best Western has done. I think there are a couple of other brands that came out and done quite a bit for their franchisees, but I think that's been severely lacking in this industry. You know, and a lot of us have realized it, that you're on your own. You know, you sink or swim. You know, that's it.
Thank you for that perspective. And I'm going to talk about demand generators and online, actually. So with so few demand generators traveling, and corporate group convention, that's going to take a while to come back, definitely. And even perhaps leisure to some extent. And it's really about, you know, that local backyard business. There's hotels that are really trying to build their base business online, and it's a race to the bottom, right? It's hard not to want to play with all the OTAs. There's hotel segments from full service hotels competing with mid-scale and economy hotels for the same piece of business. So in the absence of all these demand generators that aren't traveling, what advice do you have for hotel owners to make sure it's not a race to the bottom in terms of rate? What are you all doing to try to go after other revenue sources to build your base?
So, you know, yeah, absolutely right. I think we had experienced this back in, you know, 2001, 2008, 9, you know, when we had these downturns, and then all of a sudden our tendency is to kind of, you know, go down the race, compete, go down, you know, to get the business. But then there's always challenge. It's very difficult to kind of get back up. And then you compensate your occupancy, but your RevPAR goes down, your NOI goes down, and then once you have certain clients, corporate clients especially, kind of get adjusted to the low rate, is difficult to kind of get back up. And then you participate with these OTAs or CLCs of the world, or any of these third-party companies, and it's a challenge. So I think it's still a difficulty trying to, whether you pay your bills, whether you pay your utility bills, pay your staff, pay your employees, or you kind of compete with this low rate. And then I've seen ridiculous rate being requested, for example, by CLC. I mean, they're coming out with this $49 rate and demanding that we give them, and so forth. And in some of the properties, we just had to take our stance and decline it, because it probably doesn't make sense to keep that commitment for a long time, because we may have to bite the bullet short term, but keeping the standards of for a long term basis, I think it's important. So I think, Tammy, you work in sales, the salespeople wants to book the room at the low rate, but it's difficult. So we just have to kind of balance that act out, you can play with the OTA at certain times, committing publicly, rates, published rates, at the low rate would be detrimental, but I think you can do it internally, case by case basis, and if need be, but I think competing overall and beat down the rates of the next door hotel, it's not the process that we've taken.
Nick, how are you navigating? Is it deja vu only times 10 probably from 08, 09, after 9/11 as well? How are you navigating just this race to the bottom in terms of ADR online?
Whenever people ask me or seek advice from me, I'm like, do not drop rates. We're gonna have bigger issues down the road, and once you're in that hole, it's very hard to get out of that hole. We're giving value. We're giving, we're charging less than an airline is. An airline seat might cost you $300 to go somewhere. We're giving a bed, a nice sized bathroom, internet, breakfast. Our rates should be higher than a seat on an airplane to this day. We're going to have that factor of, we don't know what's going to happen with minimum wage in the upcoming years. So that's another challenge that we're going to be facing. If it goes to $15 and we're still trying to get out of COVID, this industry, we don't know what's going to happen to it. It's going to be a tough industry to crawl out of. That's for sure.
And one of the biggest challenges we see with the hotels that we support is that if you have your bar rate set too low, then when the corporate lodgings, the CLCs of the world come along, they're looking for a discount off that online rate, and there's nowhere to go. So you end up compromising any of those negotiated rates you have in place. So it's this fine line between being competitive online and also, again, not that race to the bottom, because we know that dropping rates isn't going to drive demand. So it's challenging. Are you guys seeing any segments that are showing some signs of life that are traveling?
Well, the independent hoteliers, they're doing fairly well right now. A lot of independent hoteliers that I talk to, they're like, oh, our business hasn't changed. And it's interesting because it seems like the local travelers that just, even if you're staying in town, staying at a hotel, or, you just want a weekend out, or, you just want a cheap place to stay, and those people are doing well. The independent hoteliers are doing well. But whenever you start getting into the brands, those are the ones that are struggling significantly, which is interesting because it seems like the independent hotels are the popular hotels right now rather than the big boxes.
Without all the fees,
Yeah,
right?
without all the fees, absolutely.
We have about 5 minutes left, and I'll see if I can get through a couple more questions. And I want to talk about labor. Before COVID, there was a labor shortage. It was hard to find housekeeping staff. It was hard to find good, even general managers, front desk staff, because the economy was good and we had low unemployment. So fast forward, we have labor challenges for other reasons, and it's still difficult to find and keep good people. So talk to me about what you're doing to attract and keep good labor for those that you are able to bring back. How have you been finding that experience?
So you're right, Tammy. I think the challenge hasn't gone away in the regards to whether it's the GM or the director of sales to your front desk. I think even post COVID, I think I guess it's just gonna become more challenging, especially when the incentives and the relief packages were given out. It's been very difficult to recruit most of the line level employee. Even today, I know we have a new hotel that's open in about 2-3 months, and then we have another hotel that we have a GM position to fill, and it's just been challenging to kind of get the qualified applicants that meets the brand standards, right? And so surprisingly, for our industry, it's been difficult. The same thing for me. I think in Nick's market in Lake Charles too, and it's been challenging to kind of. So I've been talking to a lot of hoteliers, and everybody still say, well, no, COVID hasn't created this new pool of applicants where there are 40, 50 of them applying for the positions, so that hasn't changed. So I think the question is, it's not whether what we do that track them. The problem is that I think it's the obviously the top line, the salary, but also your locations, what kind of product you have, and so forth, and from my experience, regardless of whether you pay 15-20% higher than your traditional market, that doesn't necessarily guarantee you that you're going to get a better pool of candidates. So just like what we say with the lowering the ADR is not going to be beneficial, increasing the salary is also not going to benefit you, because again, it's still the product is in that location, whatever the products you have, and so forth. So it's a quite a balance. I think the biggest thing would be to be able to invest time and find the candidates from mid-tier to lower tier hotels, or even independent hotels. I've been successful in recruiting some independent hotelier managers and training them and bringing up to a skill set to manage the brand level. I think that probably is a better route to go, whether they will have probably added incentive to learn, acknowledge, and get into different segments of their life. So I think that's probably a section, because when you're in secondary and third tier markets, it's always going to be challenging.
Jill, what are you seeing across your membership from a labor perspective? I mean, obviously, a lot of furloughs have happened, but there is a certain level of staffing that's required. What are you hearing from your members?
Yeah, I think I can say what Mom and Nick were saying, that this is a tough market right now for labor. It's extremely hard. I think even though there are a lot of people who are unemployed and who need employment, there are a lot of issues that keep them from being employed. I think of one, and it's that parents are now both school teachers and educators and after school care, and all the issues that that they are facing, that they have to be all things to their kids and their family. So I think that that's a very difficult position to that our employees are finding themselves in. And also too, in the very beginning of COVID, I think a lot of the fact that the amount of funding that was coming through for unemployment kind of kept people away from being re-employed, to be honest with you. I think that some folks were receiving bigger checks than on a weekly basis than they were making in some cases, and being employed. And so that was a deterrent as well. I don't know that that's the case any longer now that the larger payments from the federal government are no longer. But I think those were all issues that we faced, and we have to work through all of that. What does daycare look like in this new world that we're evolving to? What does after school care look like? What does home school learning look like in the future? Because all of these things affect, I know, the employees that our hoteliers are looking for.
So we have 2 minutes left. And my last question, I want to end on a really positive note. This has been such great best practice sharing and such candid feedback. So 20 seconds, 30 seconds from each of you. What are you most optimistic about next year? Jill,
Nick.
do you want to?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, Yeah, go ahead.
I am optimistic, and I say that honestly, because I think, back if you'd asked me that question a couple of months ago, I would have said, "Oh my goodness, what is there to be optimistic about right now?" But I think with this vaccine that is being announced, or vaccines being announced, with the improvements in the therapeutics, all the things that are coming out with it, I do believe that come March, as Nick said, we can look forward to people starting to begin to open up again and start to travel. I honestly believe that people want to be with other people, and they want the experience of learning through travel. And so I am so looking forward to next year and when things begin to open up again.
Thank you, Jill. And time is up. And I just want to end on a note before I turn it back to Nick. What I'm so optimistic about is I don't think there's a more resilient industry than hospitality. And I continue to be amazed at the grit and the determination that all of you and all of us have had to just keep persevering through over these last 8 months. And we'll get there. We will get there together. So I want to thank Nick and Vimal and Jill. What a pleasure it's been to moderate. Lots of challenges. And here's to 2021. It's clearly only getting better from here. So let's hurry up and say goodbye to 2020. And Nick, I'll pass it over to you so you can instruct the AAHOA members where to go next. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all for sharing your valuable perspectives in our industry. Now I encourage everyone to please head over to the auditorium to hear from your AAHOA officers. Thank you, guys.